When you think about the combination of Sonic and horror, I'm sure that you think about the infamous Sonic.exe, or at least I'm assuming you do if you clicked on this video. This bloody-eyed, jump-scaring son of a gun is pretty much the unofficial face of Sonic and horror at this point, whether you like it or not. Even stuff that isn't explicitly .exe content, like Tails or Needle Mouse or Green Mountain, is associated with Sonic.exe in some way. In fact, Sonic EXE and Tails doll were pretty much joined at the hip back in the day, even fighting together. Was anyone here a fan of Animation Rewind? If you were on his Google Plus community back in the day, there is a 99% chance you ran into me. Anyways, what I'm saying is that this hedgehog can dig his claws into almost anything relating to Sonic and horror, or at the very least influenced it in some way. However, there's one Sonic creepypasta that in the past year or so has not only regained popularity, but apparently came out before Sonic.exe. And I'm not talking about polio, although I'm sure he had something to do with that too. I'm talking about the story of El Pendrive Azul. As you may have been able to tell by the title of the story, this story is in Spanish.
Es bueno que pueda hablar español impecable, pero solamente cuando se acabe esta oración.
So, something about a pen drive, right? What's up with that? But before we get into the main video, I have a huge announcement to make. Who's that little fella? That's right, with the help of Makeship, the first ever ToadBup plushie is officially in development. Kind of. By that, I mean I need your help to make it become a reality. Right now, it's in the petition phase, which means I gotta get enough people to tell Makeship that they want this goofy guy so that it gets made. All you gotta do is click the link in the description, pledge $2 that you want your very own Purple Mushroom Man, and then when the actual plush is up for sale, it'll hold on to one for you and then automatically charge you the rest of it for the plush when it comes out. This is my first ever piece of merchandise, so please support it if you can, and share it around if you're not able to support. If there's not a bunch of mini ToadBups running around this earth, we deserve to be fried with a giant magnifying glass. Anyways, back to Spooky Sonics. El Pendrive Azul was a Sonic creepypasta written by Sinuoise back in 2011. It was originally in Spanish, has been translated to English, and also had a Spanish remake called the Blue USB, but we're mostly just focusing on the original hog here today. Like I mentioned earlier, this creepypasta picked up traction in recent times due to when it was actually released. It was discovered that it came out before the original Sonic EXE story, and since both included an evil copy of Sonic, obviously, this was the original Sonic EXE, right? As someone who's been reading creepypastas since they were like 7, there are so many gaming creepypastas out there that it'll make you puke hyper-realistic vomit out of your hyper-realistic mouth.
Man, I love good tropes in writing.
The sheer amount of gaming creepypastas, coupled with the fact that the author of Sonic.exe couldn't read Spanish, it was likely just a big ol' coincidence. This story is its own thing. It definitely gets roped in with its bloody blue brother a lot, but hey, let it stand on its own merits. That does raise a very good question though. Which story is better, Sonic.exe or El Pendrive Azul? Pendrive, and it's not even close. Now, before we go any further, I think you should get a good idea of what this story was about. I'd recommend reading it on your own. It's really not that long, and it's honestly not bad. Also, if you'd like, I recorded myself reading this story. I don't know where I'm gonna put it just yet, but I'll know by the time I edit this video. Any gameplay you see during this will be from the playable recreation made by Vibing Leaf. We'll talk more about that game later in the video, don't you worry. With that out of the way, let's dive into El Pendrive Azul. It all starts with our protagonist Gonzalo, who, like anyone who's gone through a traumatic experience involving an evil video game, has got to tell YouTube about it. So, a few weeks prior, Gonzalo got a visit from his buddy at the door. Unfortunately for him, his buddy was dying and convulsing. He gives Gonzalo this blue USB, starts screaming and crying his eyes out, and then just fucking dies on his front porch. Oh my god. He had apparently passed away from a seizure, and after the funeral, Gonzalo just couldn't stop reliving the situation in his mind. All of a sudden, he remembered the blue USB that his friend gave him. Now, rule of thumb when you find a USB, never plug it into your computer. I don't know if finding a random USB is the same as your dying friend handing you one on your front porch, but I'm sure the rules carry over. Tossing the USB into his computer, besides this text file with an unreadable language, there was only a single file sitting in front of him. This file was none other than Sonic the Hedgehog. The E was missing, I didn't mispronounce that. The file didn't work at all, Gonzalo added the missing E, and what do you know, it worked. Loading into the file, it appears to just be the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Unlike the classic title screen though, the text seems to be in this strange unreadable language that was seen in the text document before. A shiver then runs through Gonzalo, for some reason. Do not show this guy a Minecraft enchanting table. He will be scared out of his goddamn mind. The gameplay is pretty normal, except that the rings are replaced with this red box. He shrugs it off as a bug, and I think this is the only time I would think the same thing. Anytime a Creepypasta protagonist sees anything scary, they just immediately assume it's a bug. Oh no, this Sonic spray has blood on it. It's probably just a bug though. Oh, Mario turned into a pile of guts. It's just a glitch in the system. Let's be real here. This ring being a different texture is probably like the most reasonable thing to assume is a bug. Turns out that it wasn't just a bug though, because the next level was this creepy bloody area. Gonzalo, being smart, tries to get the hell out of there instead of playing. No matter what he did to try and close the game though, he just couldn't. The game slowly distorted and suddenly began to flash lights at him. And somehow, this actually paralyzes him. What? Was the game so bad that it took away his bodily functions? He must have been playing Sonic 06, am I right, gamers? Haha, like and subscribe for more epic Sonic jokes. More and more disturbing horrors fill the screen, as a woman screaming can be heard in the background. Sonic's eyes begin to turn bloody as Gonzalo can only sit there and cry. Honestly, I'd cry too if I saw my blue buddy in pain like that. Eventually, it all just came to a halt, and the screen turned black. The number 10 appeared on the screen, and then it began to slowly count down. Understandably, seeing a countdown after being paralyzed by an evil Sonic game put Gonzalo in full panic mode. As the timer ticked down, Gonzalo, with all of his strength, forced his body to move, barely being able to duck and cover before the timer hits 0. The game goes absolutely haywire as he rips the power cord out of the computer and puts a stop to it. Gonzalo stomps the USB to oblivion and he's finally safe. Until he sees a bloody Sonic plush on his bed. Nah, I'm kidding, but that'd be hilarious if that's how it ended. And that was the end of Pendrive Azul. Now, it might be a little bit silly to some. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a creepypasta about a scary haunted Sonic game. But would I be crazy to say that this is one of my favorite creepypastas of all time? I really like this story. I don't really know why people compare this to Sonic.exe though. Was it because they were both about copies of Sonic that included bleeding eyeballs? Okay, maybe I get why some people said that, but man is this story leagues better. The creation of the game is kinda cool, because while it might be implied that this might be a haunted copy of the game, it could also be interpreted in other ways. Maybe it was someone's idea of a joke, making this scary Sonic game that messes with the player's head. That doesn't explain why Gonzalo was paralyzed, but maybe that flashing light was some sort of subliminal message or epilepsy trigger or something. It could have been that the game was haunted, it could have been a morbid creation by another human being, and it even could have been that the game was self-aware. Once again, I'm not saying that this could happen in real life, but hey, it's more realistic than a demon possessing Mr. Needlemouse. And the idea of the countdown is, in my opinion, the scariest part. This is some shit I'd have a nightmare about as a kid. Being trapped at a computer unable to move as it slowly counts down to something completely unknown, and they don't even tell you what the countdown was for? Expert storytelling right there. Call up Hollywood, get this made into a movie. It's not a perfect story though. At the beginning, with the friend handing Gonzalo the USB and then dying right after, that was weird. Why'd he do that? Also, I did think that the woman screaming and the bloody hedgehog were kinda cheesy, but I mean, it's not that big of a detriment. It's a creepypasta. It's a good short story, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it was an enjoyable read. Great job, Sinuois. Now, similar to Sonic.exe, this story unsurprisingly has a few game adaptations. I was able to find 2 in total, one of which was just unlisted from GameJolt, so I'll just focus on the one that I've already shown footage for, and that's Vibing Leaf's Sonic the Hedgehog. not the original Sonic game. That's just what they decided to name it. It would never happen, but how funny would it be if some poor, unsuspecting kid online downloaded this thinking it was the original Sonic the Hedgehog? That would kind of be funny. Before we start, you could probably tell by the story itself, but a huge flashing lights warning from here on out. I'd advise skipping all the way to this timestamp or just leave the video here. Here's the outro if you're leaving early. Getting fit and funky isn't your desire. Okay, cool, it's time for the game. Apparently, this game is being investigated as it's unclear who made it. There is a video that Vibing Leaf made to accompany the game, but it gives a fairly similar backstory to the game that the original Creepypasta did. Dead friend, blue USB, you get the deal. Off the bat, besides the fact that I think the story said that this was based off the 8-bit Sonic game, this is all pretty accurate. The game seems normal except for the weird text in the corner and that the rings are replaced with the squares. It does take some creative liberties though. It makes the whole game seem more scuffed and creepy, it messes with the life counter, and it has the ending say past instead of Sonic has passed. Wait a second, past? You don't think that means he's dead? Unlike the story, however, instead of getting right into the bloody area, you've got a few extra levels here after your level ends. I really appreciate that addition. Accuracy to the story is important here, but if they were 100% accurate to the story, this game would have been like a minute long. You're thrust into Marble Zone from Sonic 1, which, similar to Green Hill, is also just a little off. Also, I guess there's the giant red flash of light that cuts the game to black, but who cares about that? The live counter is stretched a bit. The next level is titled or something like that. I don't know, I don't speak French. This level is fully shrouded in darkness, having you navigate past all of these enemies hidden in the shadows. I won't lie, I died a ton at this level. It's near impossible to see where these enemies are at. The only indication you get is the occasional flash of lightning, so I was just jumping 99% of the time so that if I did run into something, I would hit it. After a grueling session of being ass at this game, I finally reached the end. Damn, Robotnik's really been expanding his empire. He's even controlling weird-ass haunted areas. Gotta give him props for the hustle. Finally, after this, you get to experience the red bloody zone talked about in the story. Run to the right in this desolate area, and be ready for the loudest and brightest jump scare of your life. Holy shit, man. Even with the flashing lights warning, I'm gonna slow this down a bit. This is a lot. I think this is one of the only times I'll excuse flashing lights in a Creepypasta game. I mean, it is literally one of the main plot points in the story. Anyways, I guess that light killed your old pal Sonic because he lays there bloody and you get a game over. Text in Armenian, of all things, pops up on your screen which reads, "You have continued to play this game. Do you want to see me like this?" No, Sonic, I love you. I don't want to see you in pain. The infamous countdown begins as this sick 3D model of Sonic begins to wag his finger. The timer starts to tick down, and when it hits 0, this happens. You know, this happened to my buddy James once. The game ends on a red screen and eventually closes itself to my frickin' sweet wallpaper. Listen, I don't know if you'd consider this an EXE game or just a Creepypasta game or whatever, but this is without a doubt one of my favorite EXE games of all time, at least top 5. Not only was this game a good adaptation of the original story, but it introduced so many cool additions, like the new zones and the whole evil 3D Sonic. It also runs with the idea that this game was made by an individual rather than it being haunted or something. What I've gathered from my experiences with this game and what other people have said about it, I think this retake talks about a version of Pendrive that's actually believable. The idea was to kill the potentially epileptic player when Sonic dies in that red bloody zone, but the creator added in a failsafe with that countdown to see if they're still alive. That's a downright evil concept, a story about a sick individual with zero supernatural powers or demonic curses or whatever, making a game with the sole intention of harming the player in a very real way, mind you. Something like this game could actually be made with bad intentions, and it is terrifying. I will say, if the last thing I ever saw was Sonic the Hedgehog, I would be pissed. Pendrive is without a doubt one of my favorite creepypastas, and I guess creepypasta games too. The concept is so simple, yet so cool. I have a soft spot for creepypastas that are just a little more grounded. Like, yeah, I know an evil Sonic game that could kill you isn't gonna happen, but the way that the story is written, and especially the way that Fiving Leaf remade it, makes the story feel somewhat believable. Also, it's one of the only Sonic creepypastas that got some popularity outside of those bloody-eyed goons, so we gotta celebrate, you know? With things like this, Green Mountain, and Shin Sonic gaining more popularity, I cannot wait for a future where EXE games and other Sonic horror content can grow and thrive at the same time. Just don't be racist like that one Sonic analog horror series that I can't even be bothered to say the name of. This whole story could have been avoided if the person just followed the general rule of thumb when it came to USBs. I mean, if I were to just find a random USB, slam it in my computer, and open it up, what do you think's gonna happen? Uh-oh. Okay, what's gonna happen now? Oh, is Scary Sonic gonna come out and kill me? Oh, I'm so scared.
Getting fit and funky, is that your desire? Get down and boogie till you catch fire. Dance and shake the soul and makes you